All right, let's begin here. President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as well as European Council President Antonio Costa to the 8th South Africa-EU Summit in Cape Town. He said the summit is taking place at a time of global uncertainty and will reaffirm support for South Africa's G20 presidency and its priorities. And meanwhile, the European Union has pledged 700 million euros to South Africa's pharmaceutical industry and a further 4.7 billion euro in a global gateway investment package. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo was tracking that briefing for us and joins us live now. Khayelihle, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. So let's just begin with, of course, the summit. It's taking place just amid some serious geopolitical developments and in some of the instances, certainly not good ones, especially when you look at some of the agreements that would have been put in place. And it makes it quite an interesting and significant time.
Well, very much so, Bongo. A very historic moment here between South Africa and the European Union. I mean, this is a very important strategic partnership, like you just alluded, with the geopolitical instability and many other challenges globally, whether you're looking at the current situation in Ukraine, where once again President Cyril Ramaphosa reaffirmed South Africa's position when it comes to a non-aligned position, but saying that it's quite a very important moment where we're seeing the talks amongst all the warring factions, amongst all the parties, whether you're looking at Ukraine and look at the recent developments in Jeddah, but also really emphasizing the issue of the respect of the United Nations Charter in terms of the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of the states. But also, Bongo, the spotlight really moving as well to the African continent. You look at the rest of parts of the eastern parts of the DRC. South Africa also really just talking about that issue, the termination of the summit DRC, which consists of 3 countries, South Africa, Malawi, and also Tanzania, that those troops now will be leaving the DRC. But of course, it's going to be a phased process so that it's really managed in a very delicate fashion. President Ramaphosa also talking about the humanitarian need for the eastern parts of DRC, the displaced people who are desperately yearning for the humanitarian aid in that part of the DRC. But really just moving to other all-important issues, Bongo. You look at that mega project in terms of the global gateway. This is a new blueprint by the EU. They talk about clean investment, but also they're really just unwavering support for South Africa's G20. We know that these are very uncertain times, and also really emphasizing the issue of multilateralism, saying it's quite important really to really work around this and really for the European Union and South Africa to work together in this regard. But also just going back to the global gateway project, Bongo, really emphasizing a number of issues, a lot of them really almost tying with South Africa's G20 priorities. I mean, for example, when you look at the issue around the just energy transition, this is one of the very massive projects here in South Africa. When you talk about decarbonizing the economy of South Africa in terms of really just not over-reliance on the coal-fired energy, but the use of hydrogen. But earlier also we got an opportunity, Bongiwe, to speak to South Africa's International Relations and Cooperation Minister Lamola, really emphasizing the issue of the just energy transition, that it should be done in an orderly fashion to protect jobs here in South Africa, but also another very key element around the refining of the raw materials, but also a very critical one, Bongo, around the vaccine production, really to quote in verbatim the President of the European Commission, President von der Leyen, saying that we learned really bitter lessons from COVID-19. So they're really willing to work with South Africa in terms of boosting the vaccine production. But also another very key area around the infrastructure development in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, and also really just emphasizing that they will continue to stand with South Africa. Bongiwe.
Thank you very much for that rep. My colleague, SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo.